Hello, everyone. This week has some really good chapters in it, and before I forget, there are spoilers for those chapters. So let's get started with One Piece, chapter 1008. I thought this was a pretty good chapter with some interesting events, namely that I believe Ashura Doji is dead after the explosion. The stab through his heart would have been enough in the first place, but the explosion sealed it. Odin being a painting by Kanjuro was right, but I was surprised when he said he was still critically injured, meaning that two of the scabbards are pretty much down already, one good, one bad. We also see that Jack made it to the scabbards after Ashura died, protecting the rest of them. Inuyarashi elects to stay behind and fight him so the others can go get Momo. As Kanjuro says, he's going to kill Momo before he dies. Orochi returned and plans on burning the palace down, believing that will kill Kaido and everyone else. We'll see if that works, and who will face him, if anyone. We see that Momo also has some level of observation haki, as he was able to tell what was happening to Luffy in his battle. This could make for an interesting way to involve Momo in more of the battle later on, but we'll see if anything more comes of it, as the chapter ends with us seeing how Luffy and Co are doing against Kaido and Big Mom, which they're not doing great, but as the others are trying to think of a plan to separate Big Mom and Kaido, Luffy is undeterred and seemingly wants to keep fighting them together. The last bit of the chapter really elevated it for me, seeing Luffy go headfirst into Kaido and Big Mom unafraid as Zoro, Kid, and Law try to think of something. Also, seeing what hybrid Kaido looks like was cool, because seeing the two of them together made them both really scary in the end. Now, with the deaths and the non-deaths, I'm waiting to see how they unfold. I never thought Orochi and Kanjuro were actually dead, and I was waiting for their return. The Odin bait and switch was irrelevant to me because he wasn't really back and it was never going to be him. Now Ashura's death is going to be interesting to see if he actually has him die or if he'll just be back mildly injured in a few chapters. I've placed my bet, and if I'm wrong I'll take that, but I think this arc is going to be different as a whole to any other arc in One Piece. But that's enough of One Piece for one video, so I'd give that chapter an A. I thought it was entertaining and moved the story forward at a nice pace. Now we're on to My Hero Academia, chapter 307. I thought this chapter was fine, good even. It just didn't click with me. It was interesting to see how the normal people were dealing with their new world. Seeing that Muscular is now seen as a major threat was actually really interesting, because I don't think he was back in his original run. Next week should be good, as Deku and Muscular will have their rematch. Whether it's an actual fight or not, I'm not sure. Also seeing Yo and Tatama, Miss Joke's students, again, showed more of the heroes still active. So I'd give that chapter a B. It was good. I'm not too confident where this story's going, but perhaps it'll prove me wrong, and it'll be great in the end. Now we're on to Black Clover, chapter 287. A good chapter with Noct fighting valiantly against Lilith and Nama. We see that after Morgan's death, Yami comforted him and offered him a place in his future squad. Noct doesn't believe he should be in the spotlight and plans to fight evil with evil. And he even pulled off fusing two of his devils together to power himself up. But it wasn't enough to stop Lilith and Nama, and when all seemed lost, Asta arrived to save him. Asta was able to cut off Lilith's hand, and he was in his full union state. We'll see if he is actually able to beat the two of them, or if they're too strong for him. Lilith and Nama in this chapter in particular showed off how terrifying they are and how powerful. So I'd give that chapter a B. It was good, with some fun displays of power and a new fight for Asta. Now we're on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 56. A fun chapter with some interesting setups and ridiculous moments. Mash and Marguerite should be fun, but first we're getting Mash versus Keldo, one of the Divine Visionaries, in some sort of game first. Keldo also seemed to be really impressed with Marguerite and was really down on Mash. Mash and Co ended up doing dumb stuff most of the chapter, which was really funny, as the only normal one was Finn. So I'd give that chapter a B. It was fun seeing Mash and his friends relax a bit before more trouble arrived. Now we're on to Undead Unluck, chapter 57. A good chapter with Shen getting some backstory and development. We see him and his partner are working on defeating Summer and some of their relationship, seeing as how Shen was concerned for her using artifacts. We also see a bit of how his negator power works, though not a full explanation. Fuko and Andy arrive and get explained the plan, which is to lure Summer out with a lot of fireworks, which it seemingly eats, or is as a whole. I'm not quite sure. Shen is still obsessed with being the strongest and knows Andy is stronger, possibly as strong as Victor, and wants to see it. As one of Summer's bodies attacks, Shen forces Andy to attack it, in which Andy does and beats it in one hit. We see the Under member watching the display and being impressed. Shen was also impressed, saying the same thing that the Under member did. It should be interesting to see how this arc goes with Shen and this Under member seemingly being very similar. Overall, I'd give this chapter a B. I thought it was good as we got to see the start of some of the storylines for this arc, them being seemingly around Shen, which should be cool. So now we're on to Sakamoto Days, chapter 17. This was another fun chapter with a new and hopefully staying character. It revolves around an airsoft tournament that gives out a 1 million yen prize. Sakamoto and Co. want it, and Hisaki, who is an assassin after Sakamoto, wants it too. They end up teaming up, and Hisaki ends up being really good at shooting. They are all doing well in the tournament when Lu decides to get drunk and expose that Sakamoto is Sakamoto. Hisaki didn't recognize him before, as he only has a photo of thin Sakamoto. The chapter ends with a stalemate, guns pointed at each other. Next week should be fun, as whatever happens will happen, and I hope Hisaki ends up joining the shop, just because his naive nature would be really funny to see next to all of them. So overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good, with some fun moments between the characters. Now we're on to I Tell C, chapter 9. A good chapter. I was right about Sekon standing up for Riza and them being partners, but I didn't see the reaction of the chief coming. I also didn't see the chief being bubbly coming either, or that they would be forming their own division. With their new division, they won't be able to take credit for their cases, and they won't officially really exist. They also seemingly will have any method possible to capture criminals. The chapter ends with a bank robbery, where we see that one of the hostages was killed, but not by the robber, by Riza. So I don't know where this is going, but I'm completely intrigued, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. So I'd give that chapter a B. It was good, and it's good to see where this series is going to go from here, which I hope it goes a long time. And that's all the chapters. The other ones, Jujutsu Kaisen, 9 Dragon Ball Parade, and Phantom Seer, they were all good. I'd give them all a B. It just wasn't much that I could think to talk about with them. But all these chapters and all the chapters in general were all good. Next week should be fun, with I think everything being there. I don't think anything really was on break. They should all be good as they all continue their arcs and or start theirs. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.